Just going to wait till a few more join. Okay, we're good to go, Anne-Marie. We've got a few people in the room.
Hey everyone, welcome along to our workshop session. This one is called A Player's Perspective. Looking forward to this. We're going to be talking to one of the most interesting characters in the women's game, and she's got, I was doing loads of prep on her a few days ago. I was thinking, goodness, I have to call her a multi-hyphenate, because Samira Khan, or Sam, as she likes to be known, is not only a mum, and she has to go and do the school run fairly soon. She's a businesswoman and a pioneer for South Asians in football, having won a soccer scholarship, put my teeth back in 2011. She's gone on to represent the likes of Colney Heath and Cambridge United. And by the way, my uncle played for Cambridge United back in the day, Samira. Anyway, we can chat about that in a bit. Currently playing for promotion chasing Actonians in Division 1, which is in the southeast of the Women's National League. So good afternoon to you, Sam. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good to meet you as well. So yeah, my uncle played professional football back in the day, and he played for Cambridge United for a little while, and then he moved on to other clubs.
You're going to have to name drop. You're going to have to name drop here.
So his name's Brendan Batson, and he's one of the 3 degrees, like with Laurie Cunningham and Cyril Regis, and he played for Cambridge United before he went to West Brom, you see.
Brilliant, brilliant.
That's the Cambridge. Anyway, enough about him. We're talk about you. So the thing I found really fascinating about your story, because we'll get into your background in a bit, is the support that you had from your mum, your sisters, your family in general. Yeah. So tell us about your family background and how you got into football.
Yeah, no, very good question. So I'm one of 5. So the youngest daughter, but not the youngest. So I didn't get that, you know, ideal location in the family setup. So one of 5. What to tell you about the family? Mine's been quite different because, of course, South Asians types of background, you're kind of succumbing to societal norms and cultural types of pressure of doing certain things. And, you know, my elder brother got me into the sport, convinced we weren't going to have another child, and was like, right, one of them's going to have to be a footballer. So that's where the journey started. Street football was where I grew up. And my family kind of thought that, you know, she will eventually grow out of it. And I think it was one of those things that they were like, yeah, she'll eventually grow out. But, you know, my sisters took me to my very first football team that was down just outside of Luton. And, you know, they've been absolutely incredible during my journey. If anything, I would argue that it was my sisters that were literally pushing me on to get me to play, were the reason behind the resources of being able to really go on and, you know, excel within the sport. So hats off, you know, my family are absolutely brilliant on that perspective.
It's only because when you hear stories about players who've come through the game, male or female, you hear about siblings taking them to the football training sessions, or a neighbour because mum couldn't drive and dad was somewhere else, you know, all those kinds of things. So I found it really fascinating that it was actually because as I mentioned at the top, your sisters were the ones who would take you to your sessions and so on and so forth. When did you realise that you were in love with football?
I think very early on. I think I was, if I'm not mistaken, I was 4 when I was watching PSV playing. I think Ruud van Nistelrooy was at the time the top striker, and I just fell in love with it. And I still remember their kit. Of course, I don't support them because I would be absolutely going against who I know. But yeah, no, I think that's when I really got into it. And I think falling in love with the sport for me was when I went to that first training session. You know, I loved street football. I loved being able to express myself, but it was the first time in life where I actually played with other females. Like before that, it was unknown to me. So for me, PSV for sure, when I watched Ruud van Nistelrooy, but then really falling in love with the game was when I went to trial with St. Martin's. I was quite young, so yeah.
And were you the type of person or a child that would play football at, lunch break, after school, evenings, weekends?
I was that kid. Trust me. They'd be like, Sam, you need to have lunch. I don't care. Sam, you've been fasting. You need to open your fast. I don't care. Like it just didn't matter. Like, literally wherever I could get a ball, I would be the kid that would bring the ball. So it's a Mitre ball, that kind of brand that was massive when I was younger. And I remember being that kid that would have the ball and basically say to the guys, the ball's in my locker, we're going to go play football, break time, lunch time. So nothing else really mattered to me, to be completely honest with you. It's just one of those things. I just felt like there was no judgment when you took a ball. Like everybody was equal. The guys were fantastic that I grew up with. Again, a lot of people that were supporting my journey when I was younger, and taught me quite a lot as well. So yeah, whenever I got spare time, it was football basically, in essence, to be honest.
How did the scholarship come about to go to the States?
Well, yeah, that actually knocked on the door 3 times. I rejected it twice. I was at university for sports massage within University of Beds, and they'd known about me for a while because I was playing for St. Martin's, quite a prolific goal scorer, and they were like, look, give it a shot, just come do a trial match, see if you want to do it. And I think at that time I was just like, well, women's game wasn't as established as what it is now, or since I came back from the States, and I was kind of just like, nah, not really interested. And then sat down with my mum, told her about it, and yeah, it was just a case of they were looking for certain profiles, so certain strikers, midfielders, and I was quite well known in Luton for goal scoring. I was back to back, top goal scorer for St. Martin's for 4 seasons running. So I think it was something like 106 games, 96 goals. It was a crazy goal average that I had there. And then from there, like literally just came about. My mum was like, look, Sam, you need to just go. She came down with me. My elder sister came down with me. There was coaches everywhere. And yeah, the scholarship came through just based on a video. That's when we were piloting the analysis piece itself before, of course, everything else like VOs came about now. So yeah, and then I got scouted through there. There was 3 or 4 offers before I got to the match, and I'd already agreed with, in principle, with somebody based in Tennessee. So that's where the scholarship came about from itself.
But may I ask, how old were you then, Sam? Because you were at university,
17.
right? So,
yeah. 17 going on 18. Yeah. So
okay. So that's a big decision to make. Would that have been the first time you would have left home?
Yes, because as you can imagine, University of Bedfordshire, I used to get to within like 15 minutes from home, right?
Right.
So,
yes.
Yeah, massive decision to make. But I didn't think anything of it, Anne-Marie, to be completely honest with you. It's just one of those, I was like, right, yeah, it's football. That's all I thought about. I didn't think about, like, I think when it then started becoming real, when the offers start coming in and then you're signing the contracts, then I started thinking, gosh, I'm going to Tennessee. Culturally, what is this going to be like? What food do they eat? What type of people are there? Are there any of my people there? And then when I started researching, I started then getting that bit of I should have probably done this before, but I've always done things in a backward manner, always gone for something and then started to realize, okay, this is how I need to work it out. So immediately it was 0 to 100 as soon as the offers came in, and that's when it became surreal that it was happening. So,
yeah, because Tennessee, what was it like that first day when you stepped onto the football pitch, I assume? So what was that like? You're in the States now, it's your first day. Can you remember how you felt?
I absolutely felt like I wasn't on this earth any longer. I thought I was in like a parallel universe when I got there. So my actual first day, I actually landed in Chicago. So okay. I, of course, with everybody who watches movies, you get like a bit of a idea of a certain place, and I landed in Chicago and we were driving past there, and that was absolutely, I had to take everything in, like the tears were flowing, because I think it was somebody of my background, my economic status has just jet off to the other side of the world, not knowing what's going to come, and Chicago was literally where I think I literally felt it. But I think when I landed, the coach was fantastic, had all of the 32 girls that were in my roster that season waiting for me. And I didn't know whether I needed to go and hug them or say hello. They heard my accent and they just were like, So that was a big thing for them at that time. And then the next morning, we actually went to the training complex where we've got all of the therapy stuff. I only saw the pitch on the third day because they were still making it look pretty, in essence, for season. And that was for the college itself. The actual pro team that I got to play for, that was in Knoxville Force, actually in Knoxville. This was in Athens when I got the scholarship itself. So a little bit different in terms of those two experiences, but yeah, I had to pinch myself and actually realize that it wasn't a dream, in essence.
And how was women's football received over there compared to back home?
You need to
at that
remember,
time?
11, it was in 20, it was a big deal. And it's
Yeah,
still,
I can
still is.
imagine.
Like, it was crazy. Like, you know, the amount of support that you would get from the other collegiate level teams. So the basketball players, men and female, lacrosse players, male and female, everybody. Like, literally, it was their thing. It was like, oh my God. And of course, they referred to it as soccer. So I ended up saying soccer like there was no tomorrow. But, you know, the level of respect and the focus on the women's game was higher than the men's game.
Yeah.
A lot more so, because it was very much seen as a parallel, as a bit of an equal. I know there's been issues over time with the pay and all of that stuff that we're well adverse to. But when we were there, it was given exactly the same token. We would play on the same pitch. We would be playing on that pitch. We would be training on that pitch. It wasn't that the men's is here, women can't play here. So yet we literally were on the same field with the same supporters, and they would stay behind to watch our games, or they would come early to watch ours and then watch the men's as well. So on that, it was really, really cohesive and really, really well respected out there.
It sounds like it, because at that time, a lot of players from over here would go to the States, like the Kelly Smiths of this world, like the Alex Scotts of this world, because there was such a lack of opportunity to progress their careers here that they went over to the States, and varying degrees of success. How successful were you out in the States?
So I would say my success probably came a lot more from my collegiate level, in respects of being freshman of the year, making the all-star teams, making the NAIA tournament team. That was my biggest success. And then unfortunately I had an injury, which every footballer seems to have that kind of conversation. But I was running on fumes first season. It was the physicality of playing there and the heat combined that really got me. So then after that, I was successful in joining Knoxville Lady Force. That was probably the pinnacle for me, because of course, what we need to remember in 2011, what we now see as amateur was probably their level of professional, because it wasn't that step per se, how we've got like step 3, step 2, step 1, you know, WSL and all of that good stuff. Even then in 2011, it was still establishing in the States, but there was a presence. So me going to Knoxville Lady Force was probably the most successful piece, because we were coming up against the NCAA athletes that were Division 1, Division 2, which you could basically say were WSL players in terms of level wise. And there were 60 of us and I made the cut. So, you know, I think that would probably be my biggest success, and actually starting over them and being a starter regularly, getting us all the way through to the conference finals. I would say that was my success, but probably within myself, the success was just being present at that moment in time, where when you've mentioned there was a lack of opportunity here, that I was doing it on the grandest stage in the US. That to me was probably my biggest personal. Yes, that's where I was number one, I believe.
So let's fast forward a bit. So you're out in the States, and then you come home.
Come home. Yep.
And then what happens next?
Settle down. Of course, as I've mentioned, I had my little one, and I took a couple of years out of the game, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then it came to the fact of I just focused on my career for quite a bit of time. Like, you know, got my head down, got into the field that I'm in terms of recruitment, built that, and then started coming back into the game eventually. I think I was 24, 25 when I returned back in, because I was 23 as I was expecting my little one. I then had, unfortunately, a really bad injury. My meniscus went, and I was out. Yeah, I was playing for the team that changed from St. Martin's to AFC, so a local team, Eastern region. Dropped out until I was 27, and then came back to join Colney Heath. And then, you know, after that, 22 games, 24 goals, then stepped up to play for Cambridge in, of course, National League. Was with them, season curtailed, unfortunately, because of COVID, pain, but, you know, it happened. And then I joined Cambridge again this season, but then opted to leave last year, just because I just felt that I needed something new, changes in their management, changes in where I wanted to be. And now I am here at Actonians as of the last couple of months as it stands.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. You've done such amazing things in the short time you've been on this earth, Sam. You've done some amazing things. So for those who don't know, can you just give us your family background, if you would, please?
Of course. So I come from a working class family background. Like I've mentioned, I'm one of 5. My parents are from South Asia, Pakistan, specifically in Kashmir. They emigrated back in the 80s to make a life for us guys. And basically, in essence, our family life was just trying to make ends meet, to be completely honest with you. It was, don't get me wrong, and I said it in the article that I'd done with Mirror online, it was, we weren't poor, but the disposable income was never used for sports, was never used. We had no education of that. I didn't have anyone aside from my elder brother, who himself didn't really associate with local clubs, didn't have any know-how here. So it was, how do we get into teams? How do we do this? We're kind of learning as we go along. But specifically, of course, we're a religious family. We associate to Islam as a background for us as well. And that's where we get our discipline from. And, in terms of family history, I would say that's basically it. But mum and dad, one of 5, crazy family, dysfunctional when it needs to be.
Which family isn't, Sam? Which family isn't dysfunctional? Even the royal family are dysfunctional.
Exactly. But if there's anything specific about family history, my elder sister was the first one to go to university and obtain a degree. She's only 4 or 5 years older than me. And, we're all now in, by God's grace, some really good jobs. Then most of my family are in banking. I'm the only one that's not. So it's a bit of a bad one, but it is what it is.
No, not at all. Yeah. So how do you handle those questions about your faith, about your cultural background and football?
I think before I was uncomfortable because I felt like it marginalized me to begin with, because of course you could sit down, and when I used to play football, I was the only person of color. When I used to see a black female, and that was probably the first time I've seen somebody of color, and still to this day, I don't see many South Asians in the game, it would really make me uncomfortable, because of the fact that I feel like if I don't impose myself on somebody, somebody shouldn't impose themselves on me by bringing that out. As I've gotten older and I've realized that this is basically something that doesn't define me, it's just a characteristic, it's what I am as a person. And I've gone from being an introvert to an extrovert itself over that time. I've understood everybody. I think it's more so, I think sometimes you have people that are naive in what they think your background means about you, or naive in what the religion associates with or anything. I don't think it comes from, narrow-mindedness. I think everything just comes from a sense of education. When you've got more of those people around, you'll know a lot more. Women's football predominantly is just all white females when I was younger. So you're associating with the same type. So you're always going to learn that. So for me, it was really uncomfortable, Anne-Marie. I won't sit here and, sugarcoat it. Always
keep it real, Sam.
Yeah, I used to feel left out quite a lot and would never find a way to be able to associate with them. But I think for me, it was when I joined St. Martin's where I just realized we're all there for the love of the game, irrespective of everything else. You love the game, I love the game. You hate the team I support, I hate the team you support. And I think we made it, and those girls were fantastic for me. They were the reason why I probably stayed in the game. If I didn't join the team like St. Martin's, probably wouldn't be in the game right now, I'll be honest. Yeah. So, yeah.
We'll come on to the topic about more South Asians within the game. We are seeing more Muslim players within the game, and we've seen now that Ramadan is a part of the game, which I think has been long overdue. So that's very welcome. So from your point of view, in women's football, how has that changed for you, and what changes would you like to see? If there's any changes, do you want to see?
There's a lot of changes I want to see within the game, I'll be honest, because I think it's got a spotlight on it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And a massive spotlight where we're also in the midst of social media. We didn't have this before. With women's football, you'd go and play football, you tell your family about your result, your friends about the result, that was it. There's nothing else to it. We're now in social media age where everything is posted online, the results, who scored, who didn't score, who
Player
did this,
rankings.
higher, exactly. Player statistics, Jesus Louise, like, you know, I used to have to go bat on the beer drum and be like, guys, I scored 96 goals. Yeah, now you can see it on the internet for free. So I think, you know, it's right now where it is, it's evolved and it's been fantastic because
Right.
it has brought so many opportunities. Like for me, my experience, I was playing with 30-year-old women when I was 12, 13. But I think that made me a better player. So that was my thought process behind it. Now you've got, you know, of course, the levels under 9s, under 10s, dependent on where you're going. And there's a lot of clubs out there. So that's absolutely brilliant. And I love the fact that there is, like, you know, it being talked about. I think what is missing massively within the women's game is emotional intelligence, right? It's a massive thing for me because it's like, what people don't understand, and again, it's comparing it to the men's game, but my son plays, so I'm speaking from a bit of experience, but then also the guys that I've got to know over time. You
Right.
do not manage women and men in the same way. Okay? A woman gets dropped, she needs to be told why she's dropped. Okay? Can't just expect her to be like, and I'm not gonna proceed to, oh, it's an emotional reaction. We need to be talked to, need to be educated. What was the reasoning behind it? Right now, what I find within the women's game, I'm still playing, so I see it all the time, is somebody's dropped and there's a lack of communication. Whether it's the player taking the onus to speak to the coach or the coach taking the onus to speak to the player.
Yeah.
Dropout will continuously happen, right? When you're in a club associated with friends, which a lot of females do, they go where their friends are. If they're dropped, they stay there and they don't question it. They're like, oh, my friends are here, it's fine. And that's another culture thing that needs to change. I understand you want to be around with your friends, but if it's hampering your development, you're not getting playing time, what do you want to achieve? Friends are going to be there irrespective of whether you're at that club or not. You actually find out who your true friends are when you leave clubs, in my opinion. Okay, so it's one of those scenarios that I feel like within the women's game, it is really missing that, because right now we've just been like catapulted into the headlight, and it's like, but it's like the way that the men's game works. They should play like the men play. We can't. Physically, we don't have the same attributes as a man. You know, it's proven. Look at science, look at statistics, slow twitch, fast twitch fibers, how quickly a woman can put muscle on, how quickly a man can put muscle on, how quickly a man can run on average. I don't like the comparison between sports. Oh, a man can kick it from like 70 yards. Why can't a woman? And I see that. Or a woman's game is slow. You know, a Sunday league team can beat like a WSL standard league.
That's so old now, honestly.
Come on,
So old.
like, come and play against me. You know, I'm not WSL fan by any stretch of the imagination, but come on. But that's the thing, is the fact that you can't compare a man's game with a women's game. And I think that is where we're going at the moment. It just kind of feels like you're expecting this when you need to take a sit back and realize, okay, the women's game is this. This is where it's come from. It's evolving, still developing. So for me, I think there's a lot of change that needs to happen in the women's game, but I welcome how much focus there is. But with that, people need to be educated to take it all with a pinch of salt, because right now it's like, oh my God, somebody scored 20 more goals than me this season. I'm rubbish. I'm not good enough. You get into a downward spiral. And to be able to get out of that within the social media world, because everybody's on it, very difficult for young female footballers. They're constantly comparing themselves. And now they've got like mainstream media to also compare against others. Not healthy. So I think it's just that education piece and that coach to basically put the arm around, you know, the manager, whoever it is, you know, the physio, for all I care, just jump in and help. If you know somebody's struggling or the player themselves is struggling, talk. I think that's what's missing within the women's game right now.
And as a proud Southeast Asian woman with a proud family, you know, you and I are having an honest conversation. You would have heard stuff said at you. You've had somebody make comments towards you. How do you deal with that, or how have you dealt with that?
I think before I would just go into my own zone and try to channel it. I had it twice when I was playing for Colney. I'm not going to sit here and tell about what players there were and stuff, because, you know, that lowers my standards, and, you know, maybe somebody's changed from that experience. But the first time it happened in the game, somebody made a joke, you're a token. You were only at Luton because you're a token.
Yeah.
We were at that game losing 1-0, and I just went into the change rooms. I cried, Anne-Marie. I was 28 years old. I cried. Got angry, cried it out. My closest ones to me were there. And funnily enough, I go and scored the perfect hat trick. That was the only way I knew how to handle it. Again, that season, whilst playing for Colney, I was then referred to with the P word. Okay, I'm sure everyone could put together what that means. I had it
Indeed.
in America. I
Yeah.
had it in America as well, for sure.
Yeah.
And I lost it. Simply speaking, I am a human being. I have got thick skin, but I do not go on a football field to be racially abused. Okay, I'm quite witty and I come back with some really good comebacks, but I was exhausted. I had it like literally 3 weeks before. I was in a high pressure job. I still am in a high pressure job. I'm a mum. I've got so many definitions of things that are running through my head. I go to football to kick a football and chase around it for 90 minutes if my legs allow me to. So with that being said and done, I lost it at that time because I don't think there's a right way to react, though. It's like basically somebody saying, so if you got into a fight with somebody, what would you do? You don't know. It's fight or flight mode at that time. And it's like, I didn't want to then, what I've never done is gone back and said something that would then marginalize somebody else, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't look at them and be like, oh yeah, but you're this or that. That's never helped me. That's never helped me. What's always helped me is for me just to react with how I'm feeling at that time. First time I channeled it, I had time to channel it. This time I didn't. We had 15 minutes left of the game. But then what happened? I raised it to the referee. Referee then called the game and said, Sam, it's your choice. Either your team walk off, game's over, we end it now, or we keep going. We were losing at that time. I could have got the result for my team. I refused to. I was like, no, we're continuing the game, but you need to pull that up in your report at the end of the game. And that was basically what happened. We then went and got the equaliser, and not all of them are fairy tale endings like this, I know, but we sat down and the player apologised, was really scared, of course, with what the repercussions were going to be, but the FA have finally taken it seriously to where it's reported, where they're disciplined for it. I'm lucky I didn't get a yellow card for all of the profanities that came out of my mouth, for sure, but it's one of those things.
So everybody, I hope you're enjoying the conversation I'm having with Samira Khan, Sam Khan. If you've got any questions, because we've only got a few minutes left with her, please do put them in the Q&A section of this workshop, and I will give you a shout out and I'll put your question to Sam as well, because I'm sure she'd only be too happy to answer them. Sam, yeah, as I mentioned, we've only got a few minutes left with you. So something that is becoming more and more prominent, I know with Sky Sports News, we're had a big theme around this as well, about South Asians in football. And I mentioned earlier that we have a lot more Muslims within the game now, which is great, and rightly so. But South Asians specifically, and there is lots of misconceptions, perceptions. What's the reality here? Tell me, from your perspective, what is the truth of the matter? Because you hear sometimes, oh, it's a cultural thing. Oh, like you said, or, apart from you, everyone else is a banker or working banking in your family, right? So it's that typical thing. My family, as a West Indian, it's meant to be, education, education, education. And you go and get a hardworking job. And it's the same for a lot culturally for a lot. You and I can understand that, right?
Yeah.
But what is the actual reality of it? Is it because of a cultural thing, or is it because there's just other interests in life?
I think it's a culmination of the two, to be honest with you. I think predominantly you would find South Asians going closer, and I'm not generalizing, but it's me as well, going to like cricket or something that they've got an association to. I was playing cricket at the same time I was playing football, so I'm speaking from experience here.
Yeah.
I think there's additional thing as well is the lack of representation and feeling like they can't get there. Okay. Right. Of course, we're now seeing it differently. Like, this Sunday just gone, I had a Muslim hijabi wearing sister refereeing the game. I would not have seen that 15 years ago, which are absolutely phenomenal in itself. Right. But with South Asians as well, I think what we also have to remember is education, working, settling down and having a family are seen as primary pieces of what they should be doing. Now, of course, that comes from the parents, that comes from culture, that comes from accessibility, what they want to do. But for example, my son, he's playing football every Saturday. Now, that's not me enforcing that. That's just because of the stimulus he has around him, representation. My mum's done it, so that I would argue if you've got that type of environment around you, you are more likely as a South Asian to go that way. We can see
Okay.
the examples in Manchester, in Arsenal, all the lads that are coming through, some of the females that are coming through within the women's game as well, right? So I would say it's got to do with your environment as well. My son has somebody that plays the sport, he watches play the sport, he's already got somebody that he can relate to. With others, if their parents are more focused on other things or anything like that, I've just seen a question, then, you know, it is one of those scenarios that their focus will lie there. So it's a culmination of the two things, for sure.
But then there's the other side of it, isn't there? Whereas with you had a very supportive family, you're very supportive of your son. There's the other side, the darker side of it, where there may not be that pathway. So is it about trying to shift that mindset, education, role models? Is it as simple as that?
It's not as simple as that. 'cause
It's not
a
as simple as
complex
that. No, I
group,
didn't
but
think it was. Tell me.
It's prehistoric, isn't it? Because it comes
Yeah.
down to females are wearing hijabs, you shouldn't be doing this, your role is this. We're very traditional. I still am within my own life to a certain extent quite traditional with certain bits. But you're talking about completely 360ing the way that people have been living for the last, what, hundreds of years? If that?
Yeah.
Thousands?
It's the days
So-
of Muhammad. Let's be honest. It's since the days of Muhammad.
Exactly. So, you know, of course, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But if you look at the teachings within Islam,
Yeah.
playing sports is a big thing. And again, it's a misconception of what people believe, what it teaches. So, yeah, I think it's a massive thing and it's going to only get better over time. I don't see it being an immediate, this is a quick fix, because there isn't a quick fix to something like this. A lot of education, a lot of representation, and a lot of societal norms breaking down and people being open to, yeah, you know, she wants to play sports, let her play sports, or him, of course, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the fact that you and I have been really honest, because we know it's not going to be an overnight thing. This is going to be a long-term cultural unpicking, if you like,
It will.
over the years.
It-
And yeah, I'm glad that you said, you know, it's not as simple as, well, if you just have role models, then that solves the issue. It's not, it
Doesn't.
goes a lot deeper than that. So that,
It does.
you know, thanks for saying that. So as you mentioned, we do have a question. I'll read out. This is from Ben Reynolds. He's asking you, Sam, do you see yourself staying in the game? Would you like to coach? That's me adding that bit in. After you finished playing. Yeah, would you like to coach your
You know
son's
what?
team?
I definitely don't want to coach my son's team. I think I'll lose the remaining hair that I've got left on my head. I am going to go into coaching. I've made a 5 to 10 year plan that I'm still going to be playing, because I am really, really focused on being a player right now, because there's a lot more I can still learn and achieve myself personally. I am going to be doing my Playmaker through BT to become a coach.
Nice.
And you know what? Yeah, I think I'll put it out there. I think I would make a really good coach. But I need somebody who's a bit more of a tactician, mastermind, where my best friend comes into it. She's got the tactics down to a T, and I've got the motivational speaking down to a T. So I think it would work quite well.
You know, Spurs had a double coaching team, didn't they? They had,
Yes.
I can't remember the names of Juan Moros, and I can't remember. They had a double tag team. So one did the
Yeah.
coach. Yeah. So you never know. You never know. You and Emma Hayes needs to have or your mate needs to have a conversation with Emma Hayes, because if you get her, she happily sit on a table with you and go through tactics using a salt and pepper mixer, and do
So I did-
when you're at a table, pens and anything she can find. It's fascinating to see. So if, for young girls out there, young women who want to get into football, that it's not just necessarily about playing the game, but it's a form of exercise at the end of the day. It's a way to socialize. You talked about that you were an introvert and you're now more extrovert. What would be your tips? What would be your advice for any young woman who wants to even just play the game for fun?
Just go and let go of your inhibitions. You live life once, right? And that's a cliche in itself, I know it is, but just get out there. It's like when you go out shopping, you're getting out there, you're keeping yourself healthy, you're socializing with people you would never meet in everyday life. For me, playing football and meeting the people that I've met through football, I would never meet these people in my daily life itself, because of the type of people that they are, the different interests that they've got. It just makes you a more worldly person. And what have you got to lose? I have fallen over many a times during practice. I have fallen over many a times during the games. I have looked like an idiot probably more times than I can count and would wish to talk about. But the thing is, funnily enough, I've always come away with the sense of fulfillment, whether I've had a great session, whether I've had a bad session. I felt like I've gone out and actually done something.
And it brings
Right.
you joy. It brings you joy.
It does.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
as stupid as it sounds, that round thing between two nets is a lot of fun. And you get, I know it sounds really, really cliche saying this as well, but I will put it out there. I feel football teaches you more than just how to kick a ball and how to get it across, and how it teaches you how to be a teammate. It teaches you the harshest realities of life. You're going to sometimes succeed, fail, completely run into something because you didn't see it. It's basically really an extension of what real life is like. You know, it's trials and tribulations, but you will enjoy it because at some moments you score a hat trick, you make that winning challenge, you save a goal, you know, you do something absolutely ridiculous on the training field that just makes you feel like, wow, you know, there's so much that you can do there. So just get out there, whether you want to be professional or not, just go do what you need to do and just have fun. So
And stuff the
okay.
haters as well. Stuff the haters. Don't worry about what anybody else is thinking. Just
Who
go out there
gives
and
a
have
flying
your
fuck?
joy. Have your joy. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know what the thing is? That's the thing. Nobody defines who you are but yourself.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do with that time? Go and do something you enjoy. And if you're absolutely rubbish at football, so be it. Nobody cares. Go and have fun. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can say to anybody that wants to do anything with football.
Well said. I've got another question for you, actually. It's just popped in. So the question is, what are your thoughts about women's aid? This is a really good question. What are your thoughts about women's agents representing players? Are there many opportunities for you as a player? And that's from Nurufshan Mirza. Thank you, Nurufshan.
Hello to you. Agents, to be honest with you, I think that they're good for what they do. From some of the girls that I know have had agents, like, you know, it depends what you want to achieve again. You know, is the agent aligning to where you want to be, what you want to be doing? There's a lot of agents that I've seen that got some of the girls on Ultimate Goal, the BT Sport thing that I did. I didn't have an agent, I got through on my own accord. So
Right.
it really depends on what you want from them. They do open doors to a certain extent, but please make sure you're not being led astray with anything.
Do your
you want.
homework.
Do your
homework.
homework.
Yeah.
Make sure that they are reputable. Make sure that they are aware of what you want to achieve, because it could be you're absolutely fantastic and I'm just forcing you here to put you into a pigeonhole. Please don't be that person. If you need any guidance, rather than go to any agents, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Twitter, you know, find me on LinkedIn and ask me a question, and I'll be sure to see who is out there. They are good for the purposes of if you know 100% what you're getting yourself in for, but most of the time we don't. So be very, very careful when using them, because I don't want anyone to lose that sense of love for the game because they've gone to an agent.
Absolutely. I mean, I recently did a documentary about youth football, and we talked to parents of, you know, female and male players, of young, you know, 10-year, 11-year-old. And the one theme that kept coming through is like when agents are coming to them going, I think your son can be, or your daughter could be the next Lucy Bronze or the next Mason Mount. You've got to take it with a pinch of salt and do your homework. This idea that, you know, someone could be turned into a star overnight. Those two people that I mentioned, Lucy Bronze and Mason Mount, have gone through a lot to get there where they are today. And they've had some help, but, you know, they would have started out doing the grassroots like everybody, playing community football, and then working their way up and then getting a really, really good agent. So yeah, you're 100% right. If someone's selling you a dream, do your homework when it comes to agents. Yeah.
They'll say that they can do a lot, they'll under deliver, and then be all and end all is that love for the game is going to be the thing that's affected, and that is the thing that you need to protect, whether you're wanting to go pro WSL, play for England one day, or whether you just want to kick a ball and just have fun with it. You need to really protect that piece. It's so important, and eventually will impact your performances long term. So please be careful with agents.
Absolutely. One more question.
Yeah.
Very quick one for you from Caroline. She's asking, can you tell us more about the TV program that you were on?
Ultimate Goal. Yes, I was on the very first one that was launched. Jesus, when was this? 2 years ago. Basically, undiscovered talent. Got approached by it, sent through my information, and got onto the show. The show there was to give us masterclasses. So I didn't get through to the final round. For whatever reasons, I don't know. It wasn't ever communicated to me. I didn't really ever ask, to be honest with you. But we went to St. George's Park, which is absolutely phenomenal. Met my absolute idol, Farrah Williams, which was absolutely.
Is she lovely? Farrah's lovely. So
she
lovely.
is such a humble, grounded person. But if you also saw her ability, just what she's
Yeah.
able to do with the ball, she's just absolutely mind-blowingly awesome. So done a masterclass with her, with Enya Luku as well. And basically on the back of that, what you then do is if you're successful, they then take you through to the final bit. They had a game, I think, with Birmingham at the end, and then you get a pro contract. For me, it wasn't about pro contract. It was just to prove to myself that I was good enough still to be playing the game at the tender age of 29. And yeah, I proved myself right. So yeah, no, really good training sessions. Got to meet so many new people, and those girls also play in the National League with me. So a lot of them play for like QPR. Some of them play for Cambridge at the minute as well. So yeah, a lot of networking. A few of them actually have gone pro. One of them plays for London Lionesses, I think. If I've got that name right, they always change their names.
You have, yeah, London Lionesses, you got that spot
Yeah,
on.
so she plays for that. I think Hayley plays there. So the girls are doing well. Some of them have gone abroad. So, and some of them stayed with their current clubs. So it's a case of just discovering that untapped talent itself. So really good if it's something that you want to get into, and it was an absolute honor being on that show itself as well. So really
Well,
good.
Sam, it's been a real joy talking to you this afternoon. I've learnt loads, and you and I just in the back and forth and just having a chat and keeping it real as well, and being really, really honest. So thank you very much. If people want to find you, how can they find you on socials?
On socials, I'm on Twitter. I don't know what my handle is. We'll never know. I should know this. And then on Instagram, both of them are private. So if you want anything, just send me a message through. Smear Naseem Khan is usually what I go with my middle name. But yeah, aside from that, I'm on LinkedIn as well. So because send whatever through what you would like to. If there's anything I can support with, please do. But Anne-Marie, thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure.
Oh, no, thank you, Sam. I know you've got a dash, and we've got to go to the other room now. So thank you, Sam, for your time. It's brilliant. So for everybody watching, we've got our second keynote speaker of the day. Her name is Farkhunda Muhtaj, and she's got a fascinating story. So if you want to hop over into the other room, I will join you shortly. Thank you, Sam. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.